Hello everybody, it's me, Oh Dear, aka the Overview. However, this is going to be the first time I'm actually not going to be saying that again. Welcome to Oh Dear. I'm still trying to figure out the way I can pronunciate that in a way of making it sound like the phrase, because I know it's going to be complicated since my name is Oh Dear, and I'm about to explain that in my first part of Oh Dear. Still not used to that. Alright, so this is going to be the first part, or as I call it, origin story. Everybody has a beginning. Everybody has a way of saying their story. And mine is a bit more, not too complicated. I'm going to just get straight to the point. Skip the dirty stuff at the beginning and get past those 9 months. But, yeah, let me get started on the name, Oh Dear. Because this one is something unique I never thought I would hear myself. Because I come from a Hispanic family. Salvadorian. Both parents are Salvadorian. And they came to America at a young age. My dad came during the 80s, the greatest decade of all. My mom, she came to the States later on in life. And the way they expected me to go is that my mom, she thought she was expecting a daughter, a girl. And she already had the name Odira in mind, which on itself is kind of funny the way that name came to mind, because nobody else knew what it meant. All they knew is that an aunt of mine, one of her nephews had a middle name, Oh Dear. And my dad had placed that as his middle name when he was born. And they thought, why not pass that name on for myself? But except they didn't know I was going to turn out to be a boy, and they thought I was going to be a girl, which was going to be Odira, which translated to Oh Dear. I find that in itself a funny way of explaining my name, but nobody ever questioned it. Everybody else thought the name Oh Dear was just something like, okay, that's your name. While some smart people actually use it as a funny phrase, which I can actually use, which I have used a lot, where my name is spelled O-D-I-R, and the phrase oh dear is like a state of shock, like O-O-H, dear, D-E-A-R. Oh dear. I've heard that in movies so many times. It's funny whenever that situation comes up in class, because then people have to look back and be like, I love it, but still, it's a funny story, the way I keep hearing people say it, because the first person to ever give me that phrase was my 5th grade teacher. I loved him. He was cool. He was one of those guys who actually saw my potential. And because I had a struggle with reading at a young age, that actually made me feel like I could actually excel at reading, which is kind of weird how I didn't understand it at first. But I'm more in the skill of learning it now, because I'm watching film. I can analyze anything and understand what is on the text. Because I wasn't about that reading knowledge at mind. At first, I thought it was just reading books, which nobody wanted to read books at a young age. I was more of a movie person. I was more watching films, watching TV, and I didn't expect to be enjoying that type of art, of reading, literature, media. I didn't expect to actually like that, when I didn't like one aspect of it, which was basically the thing I use now, which is reading. I know it expands your knowledge. You can learn new words every minute, every page. You can learn something new every day. But I don't know what was weird about me that I didn't like that. But let's get to the nitty-gritty part of this. My name. We got that. How about the way who I am? Who am I? That's something I ask myself every day. Who am I? Because, oh dear, I see that as an identity. But the way I say, who are you? What do you want to be? That's still something I'm working towards, because at first, I never thought of it as a way of saying, what do people hear or know when they see that name? Or say that name? Because at first, to be honest, I wanted to be a pilot. And it kind of feels weird to say, because as a kid, I always liked looking at the sky. And around that time, I think I was around maybe 6 or 7, possibly, where I first saw Star Wars. And I loved the Millennium Falcon, how everything was about me, space. People driving in spaceships, moving around in the air. And around that time, I kept going on vacations with my family in planes. That made me actually feel like, oh, I want to be a pilot. I love planes. I like flying in the air. To the point where every time they asked me what did I want it to be, I always had planes in the middle of a sentence. Whatever thing I drew had me in a flight suit. Whatever I had was basically me trying to fly. And then that changed. I don't know what about me wanted to not fly. I don't know. It feels kind of weird to say that I had an aspect, I had a goal that I wanted to do that thing. But now looking back, I'm like, I don't want to do it no more. But I was a kid. Things change. We have a way of saying I want to be this when I grow up, when that's not the thing you're gonna be. I'm not gonna lie, my brother thought he was gonna be a Power Ranger, since he was all about Power Rangers at a young age. And no, that it doesn't work like that. I had an actual thing I wanted to be, but then something in me changed that I didn't want to do that. And then later on in life is the biggest aspect of what do you want to do with yourself? Which I'm still dreaming on it. Dreams can become reality the way I can actually envision it in my head. Because I don't want to be in a job I don't want to be in. Working 9 to 5 somewhere I can easily get somewhere else. Higher pay, lower pay, doesn't matter what it is. I can either do that here at a warehouse or at least make the same wage or something lower at a convenience store. But I don't want to make it so that that's going to be my life forever, because I actually have a plan. I don't have a plan. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But what I wanted to do at this young age, which I'm currently in, 20 is not that young. I'm basically an adult by February. And what I wanted to do is work in film. I know some people think I'm going to college for something else. Because if I'm being honest with you, it's funny the way things change in life to where people don't notice the little flaws in you, especially the stuff about what do I see in you that makes you feel like you can actually do the job. To be honest, my parents expected more from me, where they can look at certain job aspects and they think they know this or that because of where they came from. I get it, but to be honest, I don't see it their way. But I feel like I understand from their point of view what they want from me, since they expect more from me as the older sibling. But what they want from me is not what I want to do, because they wanted me to be an engineer. And to be honest, I don't know anything about that. You can ask me anything about engineering, and I don't even know shit about it. I don't even know what it is. You know, I think it's building stuff, maybe construction, working on the blueprints, but I don't know. Seeing how things work, possibly. I don't know anything about it. But if you ask me about film, like, if you can ask me how it is or how can you act in this certain way, ask me about the history of film, ask me about, oh, what are the best movies of all time, or one of the most popular franchises that you've seen or watched, I can quickly analyze and tell you a story, especially if something I feel like it could be good, it might be bad, it might be trash, or something guilty pleasure that some people might not like that I actually like. I can do that. But that's what I want to do. I love working in film. All my life I've been watching stuff through a screen. At a young age, I even did that because some people might not even remember these DVD players. But not a DVD player. I can't even remember what it's called. I think a portable DVD player. They're like little laptops that had the disc in it. Like not the little, like a laptop, but like it had a screen. But except the middle piece where the keyboard would be is the actual DVD player, where you can just press it, pull up the disc, put the disc in, and on the side would be play, pause, forward, backward, anything like that. And you would have a little remote on the side to move around the select screen for the main menu. I always carried those around and carried a case of DVDs through a backpack. I did that here and I did that in El Salvador. Everywhere I went, I always carried a little DVD player by my side watching stuff. And what I mainly watched was Elmo, because Elmo was the thing at the time that actually taught me things, where I learned how to write, I learned how to draw, I learned how to even count, because Sesame Street. And I don't have it on me right now, but I think I can find it. I have this old my mom had this check, or whatever those things are called, envelope checks, and I wrote my name, my brother's name, some cousins, and some places I knew, like Sears, and other places like that. I knew the names, and I recognized wherever we were on the road, I could have guessed where we were going. Like if I recognized little signs, reading the signs, like back in the day on Route 22, I would always see R.C. Richard and Sons. I would always guess we're on Route 22 and we're going to Target or Pizza Hut, since those were the most recognizable places we went to when I passed by that area. Or maybe Toys R Us, because that would be the first thing, like, to get over to Route 22, where you see Toys R Us on the left and Chuck E. Cheese, and you would go past it. I would always think, oh, we're going to this place. Or especially since those times I'm on the highway, and I would always guess we're going to whichever mall, like Jersey Gardens or Livingston. I was a smart kid, and all that kind of went its own way later on in life, because I'm not going to talk about it now, but everything I'm saying here is going to move over to its own episode. But I'm giving you the basic origin story of me. Not just that, from where I am now, briefly. Certain topics are going to be discussed later on in life or in other episodes, but this is the me I'm going to talk to you now. Around 2002. And to be honest, I feel like if I was born like early 90s, maybe mid 2000s, it would have been, I lived the best time of my life, because that's the introduction of stuff that I never thought we were going to get. Because early on in life, I grew up with the little things, starting with Sesame Street, watching it on the PBS and PBS Kids on DirecTV. But then later on, my brother and I found ways to actually move past that and look at other entertainment. Like back then we had Jetix, and that was my introduction to the Marvel Universe, actually learning about the characters from Marvel, like superheroes, like Spider-Man. X-Men the Animated Series was on. And Cartoon Network, which introduced me to the DC Universe, Batman the Animated Series, Superman, the original Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. Even early premieres that I never thought I would actually see until the reruns, like Teen Titans, the Batman the Brave and the Bold, and other shows I didn't think was actually possible that would actually give me interest to the stuff I like now. Even Star Wars, because Star Wars The Clone Wars was my introduction to Star Wars, and because I didn't know what it was. I never knew what it was until the Clone Wars came out. And then that was when Lego started introducing their versions of the games, like Lego Star Wars 2. That was the first way I experienced the original trilogy. I didn't watch the movies at first. I played the Lego video game, which is kind of funny that the Lego game was my introduction to the discussion I never thought I would have, where people were like, which trilogy is best? In what order did you watch Star Wars? When I actually played it through episodes 4, 5, and 6. Then I got the complete saga, where I played it from 1, 2, and 3. I played, instead of watching the movies, I played the game versions of the movies at a young age in reverse, which I find funny, especially since that whole Star Wars debate was a big thing when I was younger. People loved the original trilogy but hated the prequels and everything like that. But let me get past this. So yeah, I went to Avon Avenue School before they changed it to Brick Avon, and then Avon Avenue again, as of right now. I was not too bright, younger, because not everyone is smart as they are now. As a kid, I was more sheltered. I was a smart kid, never got in trouble at school for anything. The goody two-shoes, teacher's pet. But what I didn't realize is that that type of thing is one of my flaws, and something I wish I actually knew more about. That not everybody is going to be a good person. There are assholes at school. In kindergarten, it wasn't a big issue. I was doing my thing. But later on in life, it's something I had to be more aware of. That I can't trust anybody. Someone can be a friend, while some others can be bad people, or a bully, in this case. I don't even know if people still use that word in 2022. Do people still use bullying? I don't know. Because I feel like I don't see people doing that anymore. It's more like harassment and shit like that. But yeah, I got bullied as a kid. Everybody must have gotten bullied at some point. But I was like I was the black sheep. Basically that. I was the odd one out. People got me because I was small. I was easy. I was too good of a person for people to actually take me down. And that's been an issue back in the early 2000s for me. I didn't like it. My parents didn't like it, and sooner or later I had to figure out to try and grow up. My brother, he was more tougher than me because I feel like we were of two different mindsets. That I was the good one. I was the one who had to be smart. I was the one who knew everything in life, that had to be on the right path. My brother, he was smart too, but then again, he knew that he couldn't be messed with, since I was more in the books and he was more in the action type of department. I don't know, what do you call that at a young age? Like, I was the one who always worked on books, wrote in notebooks, had my own drawings and stuff like that, while he was the one who had Legos, stuff like that all the time. He was the one who wanted toys, he wanted video games, while most of the time I wanted that too, but not as much. Like, I was a responsible kid. But then I had to know sooner or later that had to change. The more I had to grow up. And I felt like the early on, from K to 4, I could say, that was the hard part. From middle school on, that was when I actually had to excel myself, and I knew sooner or later that I can't be messed with. I had to toughen up. And I did at that point. Even though I was like a laughingstock, basically, like, people said, "Oh, you're trying to be tough." It didn't matter to me. I'm like, at least I'm not getting messed with. So I don't feel like that's kind of a bigger issue than hand, but you know, that was me. But then I had to go through high school, which is a bigger change, but in a way I never thought most people would expect, because and I'm gonna say this because this is my opinion. I don't know what happened in between, I can say 2013 to 2020, but I feel like that was the edge where the world around me changed, but I didn't know anything about it, since I was still in my own mind, still with my own beliefs and stuff like that, because that's when the world got more PC. Because around 2013, I could say one of the most offensive things, but yet everybody took as a joke at the time, was Vine, which everybody laughed at, 6-second videos where people don't remember. And YouTube was big too, where they had their own YouTubers do their own sketches about it, and other certain topics you can't do now because people would get offended. Everybody took them as jokes at the time. No big deal. But now I feel like the world is not ready for stuff like that, and the world has to be accustomed to the things we do now, and look at the past as, oh, you can't do that because that will be offensive to some people. Okay, but it's a joke. It doesn't matter. It's just a joke. It's not a joke. That is not to joke about nowadays, which I feel like that's the thing I have in myself, that I can respect it, but I don't agree with it. Because nowadays you can't do racist jokes. You can't do jokes that pertain to certain people of weight, ethnicity, without people getting offended or canceled. And that's something weird I realize nowadays, because now you can't do stuff like that. Which it's funny that in a small circle we can say something offensive, yet some people will pertain to it as a joke, while if somebody hurt you in the background, it would be more offensive to them, even though it doesn't pertain to people like them. I'm not trying to say that, because, be honest, everybody has ever said a racist joke. Everybody has said one. Yeah, we keep it to ourselves. That's our own style of humor. I'm more of a dark humor type of person. I get it. But some people might not like that. And I feel like in between this zone, everybody got more and more PC, that everybody couldn't agree with the things certain people said. And I feel like that's kind of a big change that I wasn't used to and I wasn't accustomed to. Even though I grew up in this era, I feel like that's not something people of my generation would understand. Even though people in I was born in the 2000s. The most offensive of every generation in every decade we've had, because we had some of the best jokes, we have some of the best cartoons, and we have some of the best movies that actually had offensive humor in it. Yet some people are like, you can't say that when people grew up with something like South Park and be like, you're easily offended, when South Park was the hardest thing people had on their minds, that was the most offensive, that offended everybody, and yet everybody accepted it as jokes. I don't know how far people have gotten nowadays, but I feel like this is something I feel had to have been summoned by somebody. I don't know who or what, but let's just get off this because this is skipping a point in my story. So let's get to this. High school. High school is something I never thought would have impacted my life, especially in the 2020s. But this is the big part. Freshman year, I feel like it was a new beginning since I moved to a new high school. University high school, starting in 2014. I didn't actually think it was going to be too big of a deal moving somewhere since I was used to Avon, because I wanted to graduate from Avon and then move over to Science Park. But I didn't get accepted to Science Park, and I got accepted to university. So I went to university. At first, I didn't know of anybody, because that's going to be your start going to a new school. There were familiar faces at university that I knew from Avon, which is, oh, I know you. I can talk to you, but it's not like you're the main group I've been with. And it wasn't until freshman year, 9th grade, where I actually found my clique, my group, to say. Because at first, a majority of students left, and there were new people coming in from around the world. And I love these guys. They were cool to hang out with, especially since the first week I at least found a table to sit with. And I love how certain aspects of that relationship have gone forward and backward, since there were people I knew who sat alone, separately. Like, I talked to them, I'd see them, but later on they would join the group, because there was a small circle, shallow circle of Hispanic, Black, and other types of diverse people joining in the group. And I like that. I like that there were people like, oh, at least there's people I know, or people who look like me that I could see at this table. And now that I'm seeing it throughout high school, it's going to be a great experience, because we've settled through a lot of changes. Some people I liked, some people I didn't like. Some people who I didn't expect would join the team would actually be part of the group. And some people I actually didn't think would come around later on in life, because I always had a thing where I don't know what it is about me, but around that time there were people who did not like me. Like, did not like me at all. They would see me and be like, ugh. And I'm like, I don't even talk to you. Why? What'd I do? I don't know if it was just me, or just because at the time I had wore glasses. I was like Peter Parker or Clark Kent, Superman type person. Maybe because, I don't know, I was an asshole. At the time I was basically in my sarcasm phase, and I'm still am now, except at the time I was more like, oh really, I'm not giving a fuck. But I had my own changes between that, which I can get into now, because each of them are going to get, this is going to come back later on in episodes, but I want to talk about it now since this is going to be the period piece about it. Freshman year, the beginning, top of my class, one of the best, honor roll student, close to super honorable, not as much, until one little thing happened, and I'm not going to talk about it now. I'm just going to get through the pinpoints and give you the cliff notes. Something happened at the end of freshman year which affected me, which I'm like, okay, that could be a thing that I hope doesn't come back to haunt me. Then later, sophomore year, I got into my depression phase. And at that point, I didn't know what to do with myself. Because everybody, I not gonna lie, I thought depression was a way of saying an excuse to give up on something you're good at. Because I was more like old school thinking. I thought old school. Like, oh, this is just this because blah, blah, blah. And I didn't believe in it. But, yeah, I fell into my own depression over someone. And they're going to stay anonymous for this part. And I just gave up on myself. I started eating, gaining weight, whenever I had money, I'd always order food to my house as soon as I go home right after school. It would be at home on the dot. And I just got fat. I gained a lot of weight. Started from a 120 something range to 170 between that whole sophomore year. And some people didn't pay mind to it, but some people were concerned depending on how I was the year before, because that was the year I experienced failure. My grades were slipping, my first D, my first F, where to the point there were certain friends of mine who asked me, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm just slipping. I don't know. It's nothing going on with me. I don't know. I don't feel like doing it. While some teachers I knew actually took thought of this, and counselors actually took notice of what I've been going through. And they're like, this isn't okay. Something is wrong with you. We need to talk to you right away. Because they said, you're a good kid. It's just that your grades are slipping. You don't do anything to anybody, but something is weird because you were an honor roll student the year before, but you're failing this year. And I want to see improvement the next year you come back as a junior, because this is the best years of your life. What's going to affect you later on. Because there were two main teachers I knew who saw me and talked to me. An English teacher, one of the best ones I've had. He knew the real story, and he could tell because he was a real about it. He was like, look, who was it? And I'm like, what? Because there's no reason you would look this depressed and be failing without having something on your mind. Because I know you don't have an excuse like, oh, I'm going through something at home, because I know it's not it. We've all gone through something like this. I've been broken. You've been broken. But come on, Ted, just tell me the story. And I told him the story. And another teacher, I like that I got a woman's perspective on it, because I didn't realize how hard that would affect me, like, to understand, because I was young. I was not a bright kid about stuff like this, because, man, I can't say it. I was basically just holding on to something I knew would never happen. And I just let that be. And then I started having my doubts, just trying to let it go. Took me 5 years, per se, to give it up, since a lot has happened in between. But yeah, that's what happened. Junior year, it was basically a comeback story. I grew up, got through a couple things, stayed the same. A lot of things were happening around that time too. Junior year was like I feel like I'd say, if I could rank all the school years, junior year was the best school year I could say, because a lot has happened. A lot of things between certain people, a lot of relationships, a lot of getting to know new and old people coming into the group. One guy, he joined our group late as hell, because I've seen this dude in other classes, but I never knew much of him. He was just the quiet guy in the hoodie. If he's listening, I could say at least thank God we got you out of that shell, because you were one of the best friends I knew back in the day, especially now too. But let me get to this. It was a comeback story. I don't know how you call this. I don't know if it's like sobered up, I could say. Let me just use that metaphor. I sobered up, cleaned my act, got higher with my grades, got through a lot of stuff. Not with weight, but like education-wise, learning-wise. And I try to settle my ground, at least try to determine myself to who I can be. And this is where the hard part gets in, which is senior year, which was basically our mini apocalypse, as if there was one. COVID. I didn't think something like this would happen, but none of us were, because I'm like, senior year, a lot of things are going to go down. I'm going to go on vacation in December, skip that prep rally, because who cares? It was basically a big impact, because that was the year our old principal left, which changed plans for our senior trip. At the time, I'm like, okay, we're still going to Florida, though, till we're not going to Florida, and they switched our budget, and we had a female principal. I did not like her at all, not for personal reasons, but like the way she was as a person. Because our old principal, he was inclusive to everybody, saw who everybody was, participated in whichever table, blah, blah, blah. This one, she was more specific, to say. I don't want to get too into it. But, yeah, that changed. Our budget changed. I'm like, I can just do well in school, skip all the social events, and just do whatever. That December, I didn't actually think it was going to be possible, because I would skip out that last week of pep rally just to go on vacation. And as soon as I came back, there was a lot going on, which I didn't actually think was going to happen. We were almost in World War III, which felt like an impossibility in itself, until that became a hoax. Then February came around, we started talking about a virus. COVID-19, the coronavirus. Later they named it. Yeah, that Friday the 13th, I didn't actually think that would actually be our last day of seeing each other at school. Which we're like, it's going to go over in a week. maybe too. People are just exaggerating because we're in this new stage. It's not like people heard of zombie movies or I Am Legend. I don't know. It's not real. It's a hoax. To me, I'm like, I've been preparing for something like this, yet it didn't turn out the way I did. We all wore masks, gloves, fighting over water bottles, toilet paper, food. And I was with a broken leg at the time because I tripped myself in the dumbest way playing basketball for a bet. Yeah, that type of stupid. But now I feel like we got past that because we graduated through Zoom, which I felt like in itself is impossible. Looking at a screen and doing your work, basically copy and pasting whatever somebody else did. But we got through it. We made it. I graduated not with a public stage, not with a graduation music in the background, parents with a video camera recording my movement as they give me that diploma. Nothing like that. We just did it through a camera. Thank you. And that's it. And now we get into college, which in itself, I felt like the beginning was a scam because now at the time we were still on Zoom, but we didn't know how the public was going to be dealing with this at first because, not going to lie, they didn't teach us anything at university to get through the FAFSA stuff. We just did that at the beginning. No counselors, no anything like that to help me get through my FAFSA and understand what's going on. And I had to figure that out on my own, which was hard in itself because I'd never done this sort of thing before. And we just did the first year through Zoom. Like the fall semester, everything was on Zoom, while some classes were on campus wearing masks. And that campus was so deserted, I didn't even know how it was possible that people would actually pay their tuition just to go on campus when some people are not going to campus. Because I'm not going to lie, at the start I met a couple of people that I actually think would help me. I'm still in touch with them, and I actually like how I don't see them, but at least we still communicate on and off in case I need them. But yeah, I didn't actually think it was going to be hard. College wasn't that hard as they were exaggerating it, like college is the real world. No, it's basically school that you have to pay for, which that in itself is kind of hard because at first I had to pay a whole couple $1,000s on my own with help, because at first I didn't know how much I had to pay, but then the second year I saw how much I had to pay to get into the fall semester for 2021. Yeah, we're in 2020. Yeah, for 2021. That summer I had to grind as much money I had to at work just to make that small amount of payment so I can fix it up. But later on, it's been resolved now. I'm not paying anything at college since everything has been fixed and doing its thing. But college is a good experience of me thinking about working on my own, because at the time I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm at college. This is a new thing for me. I don't know anybody. I'm on my own basically, but at least I'm doing everything piece by piece to figure out what I have to do to actually get through these classes, make it, and at least talk to people to help me pursue the career I want. And at this point, I'm just glad. I'm just thankful for what has been going on with my life. Nothing terrible to say. I know some people have that excuse of saying, oh, I have a better life than you, when we're all dealing with our own thing. Everybody's story is different than mine. I understand what you went through. I don't go through the things you do every day, but at least I can say, do you? I do me. Everybody has their own thing going on. While some people might joke and understand, while some live in the past. I know a couple of people who act the same way they do back the same way as if it was in high school. Like, some people have not grown up or learned a thing or two. Some people, I appreciate the things they're going through, but I love how certain people in my life are fixing it, or actually doing something to fix their lives and work hard, not just for themselves, but for their families, their loved ones, even their kids. I can't relate to something like that, the last few, but the thing is, I want to make myself better. That's the thing I'm striving for. And what endures me to actually do this. This isn't just a side hustle just to make some money. I want to let my story be known. Everybody's does. You can be on the news one day and people will forget about you the next week. But what I want here is going to stay public. I'm working on this, and I'm working on my YouTube channel, which I might get back on. But I'm still trying to figure out the right time to do it. Like now. This is basically episode 1, origin story. And I'm gonna just do my thing, end it now, because everything is gonna get its own topic. Not everything is gonna be in order as a way of me saying Monday at my own schedule, saying we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna talk about this. Everything is gonna have its own topic. Every episode is okay. This is gonna be the plan now. Going forward, every episode is gonna have its own topic. No matter what it is, I'm just gonna talk about my view on the opinion and whether or not it impacted me. The next episode is going to be different than this one. This is basically an introduction to me. Not the podcast in total, but this is going to be me to who I am. If there's anybody who wants to know who I am, they can DM my Instagram at the_O_review. Is going to be linked somewhere. I'm going to put it up at some point. And on the O Review YouTube channel, if you want to comment some things on my video saying who I am or what do I want to see later on. I'm going to keep doing the movie reviews, but if I want to talk about something about movies, I can do that here. But I feel like it's going to be more expanded upon if I do it on this. But yeah, this is going to be the end of my first episode, which I didn't actually think was going to be possible. Actually finding a platform to actually do podcasting, since I need equipment. But I'm still working through my ways, learning this process piece by piece, and at least I'm actually getting started on it right now. This has been Oh Dear, and I'll see you guys next time. Oh dear.